you're just starting out learning a pull-up and you want to make sure you're learning with proper form, or maybe you've been doing pull-ups for a while and notice maybe your form is a little bit off, let's go ahead and jump right into proper form and what might be happening and why.
So we're going to start with a few things. That's probably the core of what we're looking at. So number one is going to be the shoulder blades, really just making sure they're driving downwards as you are pulling upwards, and then making sure that on the way down they don't just jump up, as we'll show a little bit later on. You want to make sure there's a little bit of space between your ears and your shoulders, so making sure around here there's a little bit of space there as well. And then also from this standpoint, you want to make sure that you don't kind of flare your back or your hips backwards, or sticking your rib cage out, and then keeping your legs fairly straight, as opposed to kind of swinging them up, which we'll show in a little bit as well. And that's what we're looking for in terms of a proper form pull-up, and some easy ways to kind of drive that into your head as you're doing it to make sure that you're trying to do it as best you can.
Alright, so we're going to talk about the shrug first. So a lot of people, because of some weakness in the shoulders or maybe some upper trap compensation, so this muscle up here, initiate the pull by shrugging their shoulders. So a lot of people will shrug first and then pull from there, and now you're rounding and you're using these muscles a lot more than these muscles. So you want to downwardly rotate, and you're going to do a scap depression first and pull as you initiate that motion. And notice how we have now space between the ear and the shoulder, which is kind of what we talked about earlier. Sometimes this can also happen if you're weaker on one side and stronger on the other. Because the stronger side is compensating with more weight on that side, you can see a shrug on this side, where the actual weaker side, it looks good from that standpoint. So strengthening this side will actually reduce the compensation on this side. And that's where it takes a little bit of a trained eye to look at as well, because you might be, this might be the issue because we're shrugging, and it might be because of some weakness over on this side, or it could be this side is weaker and this side is trying to compensate, or vice versa, depending on the issue. Then sometimes you can get a shift to one side, where you're shifting towards the stronger side, typically, to off-weight a weaker side. So doing some unilateral movements on the weaker side to help strengthening that up can also address that. Also, this can happen if you've had a previous shoulder injury and you're relearning it. Your body likes to compensate to get the motion, and now we just need to actually focus on being a little bit more even. So you're going to feel like you're using your weaker side a little bit more, but it'll actually be pretty normal. And this is where like videoing yourself and things like that can be helpful to make sure you're actually pulling evenly with both sides. And then lastly, we have just looking at the scapulohumeral rhythm. So basically, you're looking to see how your shoulder blades move and to see if that's symmetrical side to side. And then as you come down, you want to make sure it doesn't like jump up or anything like that. So I'm going to come here. So Steve right now is kind of shrugging a little bit with this side. And then that side, go and relax. But this side on that one, it upwardly rotated beforehand as well, or like on the way down, it excessively upwardly rotated, so you can kind of see that where it popped up as well. So we're looking at those types of things, and that a lot of the times can be just overall strength and endurance, and of those muscles that stabilize the scapula. So some of those strengthening exercises can be helpful as well.
So there's a variety of different exercises you can do to try to work on this without literally just saying, oh, I can't do a pull-up, oh well. The first one is the lat pull-down. I think the main thing here is, especially as a therapist, we're typically cueing people to just make sure that this stays down. It's not as hard doing it as you're pulling down, but it's the way up that we see people jut that shoulder up, which is one of the faults that we were talking about with the pull-up in itself. So we want to make sure we're avoiding that the whole time. Again, not as big of a problem pulling down for most people, but especially on the way up, controlling that. Another thing that we'll try to work on with people is the eccentric only pull-up. Historically, I've always done this, where you kind of squat or use your legs to kind of help get you up somehow. Lauren, a little bit, is going to show you how to use the band as well. But you'll see in this case, we're still trying to cue it just as long as you can. You'll find that most people, if you can't do a pull-up by yourself, it doesn't look perfect, but your goal is to try to keep the perfect form for as long as you can. So you might be half the way or 2/3 the way before you do, And it's going to be the same thing here where you can use the band to make it a little bit easier, or the band itself might actually be the thing that helps bring you up or do the pull-up itself, right? So this can either be just for the eccentric portion, or it can be for the raising up concentric and the eccentric lowering portion as well, whatever is more appropriate for your body or the setup. Because sometimes you'll see Laura was kind of climbing up here. Other cases you can use, like in the gym, a dumbbell, or at home even a chair to kind of put underneath to help you with this. But the goal is to concentrate on that form as best you can and to try to control it as best you can, especially on the way down. But the last one we're going to do is what's called an Australian row. We're going to bring the bar down a little bit, and more or less it's going to be kind of like a barbell row motion, but a close connect chain version of that, where it's almost like if don't hit me, you do a pull-up, but with your feet planted. Now, when Laura does this, you'll see a lot of the same principles, not raising the arm up, and you can actually dictate the angle will actually impact how easy or how hard it is. Where the higher up the bar is as you do it, the easier it is, and the further down the bar is, or the further forward you bring your feet forward, the more of your body weight that you're making lift up against gravity. So there's a lot of different variations here. Again, theoretically, she could also, instead of moving the bar here, she could have put in a chair here. For me in this setup, I leave the bar at my normal pull-up height, and I just throw my feet on back there. So there's a lot of different ways to make it easier and harder, and I think just the angle of your body and the amount of support you give it's a very easy way to control it one way or another. But you're working on those same principles of not hiking your shoulders up, making sure you're driving from your shoulder blades as well.
And then just general shoulder strengthening is going to help with the pull-ups. You have your back muscles that are, attached to your shoulder blades and really pulling it down. You also have your lats, but don't forget, like, your biceps and your triceps are also extending the shoulders and helping stabilize the shoulder as well. And you're bending your elbows, so you're using those biceps too. So all of these muscles, in addition to your grip muscles, are being used in a pull-up. It's a general exercise for your upper body strength. So just general standard upper body strengthening exercises are going to be helpful as well, especially focusing on the unilateral exercises or one side only to address any asymmetries. I do also have a video talking about how to address asymmetries, so I'll go ahead and link that over here for you too. But if you do want any additional exercises to help specifically strengthen it for your pull-up, I do have a pull-up program, and then I also do have a band-only back workout that might be helpful as well. So I'll go ahead and link that here for you.